Let's talk about addiction. This is a topic that I know very well. I've struggled with every form of addiction you can imagine, starting out with alcohol and marijuana and food when I was a kid, through teenage years, everything like that, which turned into a severe heroin and crystal meth addiction in my teenage into my early 20s. And I was able to get sober and get clean after a couple stints of going through treatment and stuff like that, and finally found my solution in Alcoholics Anonymous. And kind of what I wanted to talk about, the only solution that I've found to addiction, and I feel like most people who struggle with addiction, the real solution is a relationship with God. Now, in 12-step programs, you're always going to be taught, the 12 steps is a program designed to build a relationship with a higher power. And, they say a power greater than yourself. And that worked for me for a long time with addiction, going to 12-step meetings, doing the whole deal, and being spiritual. That worked for me for many years. I was sober for 6.5 years. Then I would say that I got to a point where my God, as I understood him, was not a powerful enough God. And that eventually led me to a relapse. And kind of struggled to get back sober for several years. Kind of struggled getting back into the rooms and stuff like that. Eventually I did. About the last 3.5 years, I've been back in the rooms and clean and sober for 3.5 years, thank God. But I would say about 8 months ago, 6 to 8 months ago, just kind of hit a wall. Actually, it's been close to a year now, last summer. But yeah, hit a wall to where, I just felt I wasn't progressing in life, and, stagnant and everything like that. And kind of back to those same feelings that I was at that 6.5 year mark, when I ended up, having a relapse and going out and using drugs and alcohol again. So I was kind of feeling in that same position again, and kind of switched my outlook and things that, I looked into, started, viewing some new content and stuff like that, different types of things. And, one thing led to another, and I got led to, some, I would say, Christian adjacent podcasts and things like that. Guys who were openly Christian, that talked about other things, a lot of sports and fitness, that type of stuff. But they would always incorporate, the fact that they were Christians into it. Chad Wright's a big one, the 3 to 7 Project. That was a big one that, I really enjoyed his content, and started enjoying the fact that he was so unapologetically Christian. And that started to look cool to me. I grew up in a very, religious household with my mother. I grew up Southern Baptist. Had good experiences in the church as a kid, growing up my entire life. Had good experiences in church with youth pastors and stuff like that. Just a series of events happened, in my, teenage years that kind of led me away. One was losing, my best friend when I was 14 to a car wreck. And it's not like I hated God for it. It's just that I coped with things with drugs and alcohol. That's always been my default, is, coping with, some type of addiction to take me out of myself. And I think that's what addiction, pretty much always boils down to, is trying to fill a hole inside of yourself, fill that void. So anyways, had good experiences with church growing up. Just kind of got away from it. And, honestly, when I got clean and sober, like I said, I was spiritual, everything like that. And I kind of looked down on Christianity, mocked Christianity. Didn't want anything to do with it for many, many years. When my wife and I, when we had kids and stuff like that, we always said we would never be a family that goes to church. It's not something we were interested in. And you know the typical thing, like, oh, people in church are hypocrites and everything like that. And the fact is, the world is full of hypocrites, not just the church. There are hypocrites in church, and there are amazing people in church, just like there is in every other aspect of life. You're going to run into, you know, variations of different type of people in any group. And the more and more I start to see, you know, people who are Christian, who are actually living a biblical life the way the Bible describes that we should live, it just started to draw me in more and more. And, you know, like I said, one thing led to another, that went from listening to like kind of like fitness-based podcasts that were openly Christian men to listening to actual Christian content, getting into some sermons and stuff like that, getting into pastors like Joby Martin, Matt Chandler, Josh Howerton, you know, a bunch of guys, and just started to love it. That led me to buy a Bible for the first time in my life. I grew up in church. I never had the conviction to study the Bible on my own. And I just had this overwhelming drive to read the Bible, to learn from pastors. I just wanted it, you know, I just wanted to consume it. And it's dramatically changed my life. One thing that, you know, I was really kind of ashamed of around that 6 to 8 months ago, before, you know, when I started this whole journey, was, you know, I had a terrible porn addiction. People say I have a porn addiction. It's not a porn addiction. I had an addiction to masturbating and the dopamine hit from, you know, that quick fix, you know, filling the void, you know, you want that dopamine. So that was the addiction. Same thing at, you know, if you watched any of my other videos, I'm big into fitness and stuff like that, and I would diet and stuff like that, and I would have these terrible binge eating fits. Like, when I say binge eating, I mean like eating to the point where I would throw up, and like hiding it from, you know, my wife and stuff like that, like, and not like forcing myself to throw up, just literally physically eat so much that like it had to come out. And that's not something that's easy to talk about, you know. But in, you know, building this newfound relationship with Jesus, and getting into my Christian faith, and, you know, joining a local church, and meeting other Christian men, and, you know, meeting these people in person, and trying to turn this into my lifestyle, which it has become. I mean, I read the Bible every day. I listen to Christian content every day. I barely ever watch TV. I'm consumed by it. But I have not watched porn in well over 6 months. I have not masturbated. And I have said, you know, I have a healthy relationship and, you know, a healthy sex life. But even before that, like, there was times when I would have sex that day and masturbate that night, just because I felt like I needed to go to bed. You know, how insane is that? And it's just an addiction. And I don't think there's any way to truly relieve an addiction other than taking it to God and having a relationship with God and asking for that you know, addiction, that sin, to be removed. And the same thing with the food. Like, once again, I'm on, you know, a pretty hard diet right now in my life, and just something that I enjoy doing, and I'm doing right now, and I have not had a binge eating fit. I've had some cheat meals. A couple nights ago, I made homemade cheeseburgers and French fries, and ate a reasonable portion, and had my normal shake that I have every night, and I went to bed. And, you know, it felt good to like have some self-control, and be able to, you know, enjoy some food and not let it consume me. Because normally it would have been eat the cheeseburgers, eat the fries, go back, eat whatever fries are left, you know, scarf down another cheeseburger if there was one left, and then eat everything sweet in the house until the time I fell asleep. And I felt, you know, like I was gonna throw up. You know, that's how every cheat meal turned into me, what it turned into for me. Any other time I've dieted in the past, you know, decade, I made a video a little while ago about, binge eating and eating disorders and stuff like that. And I truly believe that that problem's been removed from me. Now I have to be aware of it. It just doesn't get completely taken away. Just like alcohol and drugs, like I have to know in the back of my mind that for me, taking a drink or doing a drug, it's not just a one-off thing. It starts a chain reaction in my brain, and I get in this vicious cycle. And I feel the same thing would happen with porn. I feel like the same thing would happen if I, went all out and just binged, and gorged myself to the point of discomfort. It's just like it triggers something in the brain. It brings up guilt and shame. And for me, for someone with true addiction problems, it's like the only way to cure the guilt and shame is just to continue on with the addiction. You get rid of it for a little bit while you're in the moment of doing the thing that you're doing, and then you feel the guilt and shame afterwards, then it goes away, and then you continue the vicious cycle. But now, when I have an urge pop up, and sometimes it happens. Sometimes I'm not watching porn, but like I close my eyes before I go to bed at night, and visualizations just pop into my head, and you get that itch to do it. And what do you do in that situation? For me, it's became praying, deep, real prayer. Has just been such a huge game changer for me. Reading the Bible, reading scripture. Psalms is great. You can read, chapters out of Psalms are usually short. They're topic based. They're more like a meditation style reading, more like a prayer style reading. These things have helped me tremendously. These podcasts and sermons and stuff that I listen to, these things have made such a huge change in my life, and I'm so grateful that these things are out on the internet, on YouTube, where we can just access them at any point of the day. I can listen to the best pastors in the country at any time that I want to, and it's pretty cool. But yeah, I just thought I'd make this video. Addiction is a very dark thing in life, either if you're dealing with it personally or you're dealing with a loved one that's dealing with it. It is the hardest thing that a person can go through. Not just, like I said, not just the person going through it, but the people that love them, that are going through it with them. My mom, who's a deeply religious woman, used to cry herself to sleep at night praying when she didn't know where I was at, Looking back, those prayers might have been what saved my life, I feel like God had a plan for me all along. So yeah, this is a deep one. I hope somebody can get something out of it. Not just, speaking into the ethos, trying to talk about things that I've experienced in my life, and if it could help somebody, God bless, So thanks for watching.